Hello, everyone. Welcome to MomVersations. I am so excited that you are able to join us today. We are excited, as usual, to share the amazing story and journeys of St. Anne's, the participants, those who are involved, those who support St. Anne's, and today is no different. I always like you to check out a little clip that describes a little bit about our program prior to us moving ahead. So take a look at St. Anne's program overview.
The family advocates are awesome and they're so helpful and they genuinely want you to grow as a person and help us succeed, and they've done that for me and many other girls. My kids are happy. We have a place to sleep every night and that means a lot to me.
It was like 10, 11, my first time that I lived on the streets. And in a lot of ways, St. Anne's became my family. They were the ones that were there through the rough times when I wanted to cry. So I felt so much better and relaxed and safe. Now that I'm here at St. Anne's, I do feel like I'm helping somebody and that I'm giving back.
I love St. Anne's.
Thriving families, brighter futures. That's what we're all about here. At this time, when there's so much still going in our community, we started this during the pandemic, and it's amazing to see how what we thought was going to be a short period of time has continued. And so, MomVersations was birthed in the middle of a journey where there's some challenges. And I feel like that mirrors what we do here at St. Anne's, how we started in our early years in terms of facing challenges, making the best of it, and moving forward. Today's MomVersations, we're talking to some amazing individuals who are dynamic. We have two guests. We have both guests who are honorees at our Evening of Angels that is coming on October 25th. So I can't say enough. Please join us for our Evening of Angels events on 10/25 at 5 p.m. So it's going to be amazing. 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern time. So this is a national program, so you can watch us on each coast. Kathy Cap is the first person that we're going to speak to today. Kathy is an amazing woman. She's a former resident and a former staff member who is now the lead pastor at the University United Methodist Church in Irvine. And, I want to make sure that, Kathy, I'm sorry, I'm looking over to the side because I'm hearing noises. So Kathy is a native of Southern California who earned her bachelor's degree in social work. She began her career working with at-risk youth and did that for over 14 years. And she calls that her secular ministry. But she actually went and attained her master's in divinity and master's of arts in Christian education at Princeton Theological Seminary. Now, can you imagine that? Princeton is not an easy school to get into, and to get through and get her degrees there after being a resident in our program, having a child at a young age, going on and moving forward to be able to actually go on and get her degree and serve in the community There's a photo of her handsome child. And so, anyway, we're going to talk with Kathy now, who's going to share some of her story, her journey. I think there's something very special when people share their journey. I call it the journey, the testimony, which helps someone else live their life to the fullest. And so, we're welcome today, Kathy Cap. Hello, Kathy, Reverend Kathy Cap. Let me give you the respect you deserve in terms of your titles that you've earned. I say welcome home, welcome back. You not only lived here at St. Anne's as a resident, but you worked here for many years. So you were on both sides of the journey. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey and maybe some of your fondest memories? And make sure you're unmuted because we want to hear you. Um, can you tell us a little bit about your fondest memory while you were here at St. Anne's?
Well, I certainly hope this is working. The sound is a little bit off for me, but if you can hear me.
I can hear you. We can hear you. All the people, and there are many folks watching, so they're all listening very closely to what you have to say, Reverend
I can't
Cap.
hear anything. Oh, the joys of modern technology.
We can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Well, it was hard for me to choose favorite memories because I spent 4 months at St. Anne's and there were so many things that were really incredible about my experience there. I took a computer and a banking course across the street at this school through the job training program, the JTPA program, and I loved getting paid to learn. That was a true gift. And many of the girls who, Steve Gunther was my counselor when I lived there, and we used to spend evenings or afternoons playing Uno in his office, and just the collegiality, the sense of belonging, and the sense that I was in this difficult time in my life, but with a lot of people and with a lot of support, was certainly all wrapped up in my favorite memories of St. Anne's.
Well, I know it's hard for you to hear right now, but I've had an opportunity to meet Steve Gunther, and he's an amazing person, and he's a wonderful person to have had here as a part of your journey. Tell me, what was your journey like going from resident to staff member? Because you go from being here, learning all that you can learn, to now all of a sudden you're a staff member and you have to be a part of the team that's helping that next generation.
I'm trying to pick up. I think I've got what the question is. So the transition actually between being a resident and a staff member was really, it was inspired through Steve Gunther himself. In fact, I told him when I was getting ready to leave, at the time that I lived there, you only lived there while you were pregnant. And so as I was preparing to deliver my son, Anthony, I told him I was going to come back and take his job. And so I knew at that point that I wanted to go get my degree in social work, and I did that. And when I came back to St. Anne's, at that time, he was the director of the mental health services. I no longer wanted that job, but I did come back and work there for over 13 years. And I think that was a really treasured time in my life. I felt like I had a sense of connection with the residents there, having been one myself. And then it was really profound at one point, a couple of years into my service at St. Anne's, I became a supervisor, and I ended up supervising a staff member who had been there when I lived there.
Wow.
Which was a really interesting shift. But Flora Tate was her name, and she was able to help me see my role through a lens of someone who had watched me grow and then saw me in service. And it really helped me to learn that even when there are intimidating journeys in our lives, that the courage to stand up and to move through those things is really important.
That's awesome. That's a wonderful share. Hopefully, can you hear me better now? I'm not sure if you can hear me any better, but we are going to continue on. You just mentioned, but what do you believe creates the framework for success for a young mom? You were a young mom here. I mean, you turned around, you worked here, and then you went to Princeton. So, what do you see as the framework for success for a young parenting woman in our program, and young women in general who may be watching and trying to figure out how to move forward?
I think a sense of belonging is a foundational uh, necessity that all people have. And young women, as we embark in parenting, especially as it is perhaps different than society might say is traditional or even sometimes acceptable, that sense of belonging is really important. And then for me, as a person of faith and as a faith leader at this time, I think a sense of purpose and a sense of hope. Sometimes our lives don't provide visions or examples of strong leadership, and I was lucky in that element, but I didn't see young single teenage moms being successful. And I think that having that vision, that a sense of role model and a sense of teamwork. Oh, I can hear
Yes.
now. A
Yes.
sense of teamwork that that can inspire growth. And I think there's a sense
That's
of
key.
curiosity that's
Hmm.
necessary in life, but especially in parenting. And then a sense of joy that comes from
Joy
all
is
of those
critical.
things.
Yes. So, speaking of joy, I'm joyous that you can hear me and you no longer have to read my
Yay!
lips. That is important, because I think I've said this many times, as the leader of this organization and as someone who's been working with young parents and families and looking at how to help people get to an optimal space. People always want to know, what is the formula? And I always say, talk to the people who have done it and have been successful. Ask them, what is it? Is it the resilience? Is it the input? You talk about joy and hopefulness and all the pieces and a sense of belonging. So I think if people go and actually ask the questions to those individuals who've lived those lives and
Yes.
had those journeys, we can bottle that up and make it happen for everyone that comes our way. So thank you for sharing that. You talk about working in the faith community, which I think is very important. And everyone has a different faith journey. But, I always tell people we're not promoting teen pregnancy. That is not what we're about.
Right.
What we're about is saying if someone finds themselves in that situation, we want to offer them what you talked about, the opportunity for hope, and not that they think that their life is over. We want to offer to have the opportunity and offer them the skills and the supports to be able
Mm-hmm.
to be a successful member of society and to feel that they can contribute. So tell me how, being in the faith community and working through your personal journey of motherhood and the things you just talked about, how that impacts your life on a daily basis.
Well, gosh, I think, I experienced my call to ministry, the first nudge of my call to ministry at a visiting room in St. Anne's. And I thought
Wow.
God had the wrong number, because what on earth could God do with a single teenage pregnant girl? And
Hmm.
so I
Well,
decided
you
that,
may want to ask that again as a faith leader. Let's get biblical. But anyway, go
right,
ahead.
Mary was a good example. um, but I think at that time I decided, okay, well, here's where I'm going to go into ministry, and I'm going to work with young people, and I'm going to help give them a vision of a future that doesn't have to become a statistic that that shadows your individual call, because God's got a purpose for us all. And
Amen.
I think that there was a time in my life where I said I lived life backwards, meaning that I had my child first, and then I went to college, and then I started my career. And as I finally, 17 years later, responded to that call to ordained ministry by going to seminary, I realized that there was nothing backwards about my life in the first place. It was all the way that I needed to learn and grow and struggle and challenge myself, and encounter challenge and obstacles and learn that resilience and also experience hardship. I think that sometimes my life experience and the struggles I've had financial. And I mean, certainly until just a couple of years ago, if I needed a haircut, I needed to figure out which other expense I needed to cut out in order to afford that haircut. I think that some of those struggles have helped me gain a sense of understanding and maybe even insight to someone else's struggles, even if they don't name them. And I think that that idea of not judging someone's story because they've had to go through so much more than we know about has really shaped my ministry today.
That lived experience, when you're in a leadership role, it gives you a whole other perspective. It allows you to want to help and have an insight into those challenges. So that's an amazing thing. So that's why it was so important for you to have the opportunity to be on the side of being in the program and then taking your experience in that journey and now your education and all of the above to help, because that lack of judgment comes from walking in those shoes and having those challenges and building that resilience from that. Thank you so much. So, right now there's so much going on in our community. We're dealing with, the pandemic, which is, people are feeling unsure and uncertain. There are levels of fear. We're dealing with issues in our community of feelings around racial injustice and challenges in that area. And then, now during this time, there's also joblessness and businesses are closing because of all the variety of issues that we're facing. That food insecurity, the fact that people don't have and aren't sure about tomorrow. What are some of the impacts that you see coming down the line, the long-term impacts that you're seeing in your role as a lead pastor, and how are you addressing that in your community?
I think it's hard to identify the long-term effects at this point because we're still not even sure what a month from now will look like.
Yes.
But I think one of the things I've noticed is that and we keep mentioning resilience, but families are resilient. I can't imagine being a family with small children right now. And the families in my congregation and the families in my social circle and in my family that have small children, the leaps and bounds of overcoming obstacles is tremendous.
Yes.
And it's been very, very, very hard. But the resilience is there, and that there are moments, even in the greatest struggles, where for those who haven't lost jobs, who are trying to balance parenting while from home,
Homeschooling,
while having children at home, or even harder, working, that willingness to be creative in how do we do family now. I mean, as a church, we've had to be very creative in how do we do church
How to do
now?
church, yes.
And I think families have had to be really creative about how do they do their normal family life? How do parents keep that, if there's two parents in the home, how do they keep that relationship vibrant and not get bogged down by the walls that seem to trap everybody in? And how do that's been one of the things I've seen. And then the willingness, I think as individuals, really struggle to identify that we need help and to ask for help. I think that's just a human nature thing.
It's been a key thing.
And I've seen so many people realize that in this time, that pride is actually really harmful in that way, and that we have to ask for help. And that asking for help doesn't mean that you haven't been successful in providing for your family, but that the circumstances of the world are such that our needs are greater, and that we get to be a part of a village of people who can support. And that I think the collaborative work and the humility to ask for help has been some of the things I've witnessed in families.
I think that's a critical theme that we've heard throughout our MomVersations, that it is important to ask for help if you need help. And something one of our former residents and guests last time said, also be the person that reaches out, because there will be someone who won't ask for help and say, "How are you doing? Is there anything that you need? Is there any way that I can help you?" It's important to be a very good listener during this time because sometimes you
Absolutely.
can hear and read between the lines and people are in need of support. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much. We're not done talking with you. We're gonna actually go and transition over to speaking with Coco Smith, and we're gonna bring you back because I also want to hear a little bit more about that child that you had here and hear exactly how they're doing. So I would
He's
love to
30.
learn. Yes, I want to hear more about that because that's amazing. That's a blessing. You know, life is a blessing in this time. Thank you.
Amen.
So
Thank you.
I'll be back with you soon. Like we're going to be joined now by Coco Smith, who is the president of the Los Angeles chapter of Jack and Jill America Incorporated. She is also the director of advancement of the Los Angeles Christian Health Center. So she's a very busy and dynamic person who's connected with so many people in the community. And we are so thrilled because Jack and Jill became connected with St. Anne's. They forged a relationship with us, and as you can see, some of the pictures that I'm showing here, this beautification project came about where they literally furbished, recreated, remodeled this room. Look at this beautiful table. Love begins here and ends never. So they came in and made sure that our space for our young women and our children were beautiful. And we're so thankful that this membership organization of mothers with children ages 2 to 19, dedicated to nurturing future African American leaders by strengthening children through leadership development, volunteer service, philanthropic giving, and civic duty, selected St. Anne's as an organization of choice. Coco, welcome and tell us a little bit about Jack and Jill of America for those who may not be aware. Make sure you unmute as well because we want to hear you also. So tell us a little bit about the organization and what inspired you all to, once you connected with us, you moved forward so quickly and what you gained from that.
Hi, Lorna. Thank you so much for having me here to talk about my beloved Jack and Jill of America. In short, we're a community of mothers who are raising the next generation of African American leaders in this country. And we do that in community with each other. We do that by doing certain projects like the one we did at St. Anne's, but also by engaging our children and learning about our children together and understanding more about motherhood and how to be kind to each other, how to instill the values of our cultural background into them. By going to museums, by having individualized workshops within our age groups to do art projects or
Yeah.
read books or learn about great African American inventors,
Yes.
or to work the polls to make calls for uh,
Election.
voting or
Yeah.
to do voter
Hmm.
registration. So we're a
Wonderful.
national organization, and our chapter is the largest and first chapter in the far west region.
Okay.
So we were started in 1948 and really started as a community of mothers who
Wow.
wanted to do something great for their children in in a society at that time that was very restricted for African American youth and
Okay.
families.
Wow. Well, there's a definite rich history there, and I am so glad that we were a service project and continued relationship. Tell us a little bit about what you feel that you and the members kind of came away with in terms of after doing the project here, because you had to come do an assessment, you had designers, you had people come together with you, you raised the funds to be able to make sure that you can create a warm and loving space. So after you all came in to do the project, what was your kind of takeaway from working with St. Anne's? What did you feel like, your membership, your group of moms felt after that experience?
It was a wow. Uh, for our organization, which is comprised primarily of middle and upper uh, income African American families, um, it was a wow. This is a place that we should be. Uh, just connecting with the mothers there and understanding the challenges that some of your guests face and are facing and overcoming.
Mhm.
And our great hope, because part of what we do is not only work to make the world better for our children and
Mhm.
to make sure our children have certain opportunities, but we want the opportunities that we have for our
All the
children, we
children.
want those for all children. We know that that improves our entire society. So Ryan Bathay Brown, who was our foundation chair, had the brilliant idea to apply for a grant from our National Organizations Foundation. So Jack and Jill of America Foundation is a grant making organization that works in the communities where the chapters are located. And so, part of what you do is try to find a partner, try to
Yes.
find some place where you can do service. And this was it. And I think it was a perfect match. Mothers are really engaged by it. We really got excited about the books and sharing books in the library. And
Yes.
for those of us, we are in this organization, some of us from the time that our children are 2 until
Yes.
they are 18. And so
Yeah.
we've got books that we used to
Yes.
read. Literacy is a big part of what's
It
important
is.
for us to raise the
It
next
is.
generation of
Mm-hmm.
leaders. So
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to not just share any books, but we wanted to share those books that we had found with the black and brown faces,
Yes.
with
Multicultural,
a
diverse
lens, yeah,
books.
yes, with
Yes.
a lens on the world that reflected our heroes. And so I think that we felt like this is a place that we can do that.
And it's interesting, because as we talk about, diversity, equity, and inclusion now, and we're talking about this on a national landscape, organizations like yours working in partnership with St. Anne's allows us to get those books in and have those opportunities to be able to see individuals, as you mentioned, many in your group are in middle or upper income, and to dispel some perceptions that may be out there in terms of economics of people of color. And see, my the AirPod wants to do its own thing, but I will, we're live here. I tell you, this is live television, and we do what we do. But that's who we are. We're resilient at St. Anne's, and we just keep going. So, right now, you shared a few things, but you're also the director of advancement for the Los Angeles Christian Health Center. And,
Yes.
you also talked about what you're doing with Jack and Jill. Tell us, in terms of what you see. Obviously, you know this on a professional level in terms of what you do in terms of working, but how you see Jack and Jill supporting or being involved, how you're making sure the level of awareness for youth who are involved and in the mothers as well, to share how you all are kind of meeting the rising challenges that people are facing with all the food insecurities and just the racial injustice in all the areas. How are you all addressing those issues? And I know you're
Yeah.
doing that professionally as well, but
Yeah. Yeah. You know, um, it's a loaded question because there's so much work still to be done
yes,
in every arena.
I know.
Our mothers come from all of the business sectors, from
Hmm.
healthcare, they're
Hmm.
working in education, they're entrepreneurs. And I think each and every one of us, especially my moms and Jack and Jill, from every corner of our professional and private lives, we are working to create that new tomorrow where
Okay.
our children's opportunities and the opportunities of other children is on an equal playing field, and where we all deserve basic human rights. Formally within our chapter, we've done things like partnered with LA Christian Health Centers, which is the organization I work for, And this organization provides health care for people experiencing extreme poverty and homelessness in the Skid Row and other
Okay.
areas that are underserved. So we work a lot with the homeless population. So Jack and Jill has put together uh, more than 1,200
Wow.
hygiene kits and
Wow.
notes to give away to patients over the last 3 years. We partner with and we've also partnered with our local convalescent home. Once COVID hit and all of the convalescent homes were shut down, our mothers wanted to reach in to some of our senior residents who couldn't receive any visitors. And so our young people, our teens, um, wrote letters, sent pictures, did artwork. I'm also really proud of a partnership that we formed with an organization called Swan Within that works with incarcerated young women to teach them dance as a way to um, transform their lives for the better. And we did another book drive for them. We all picked books that were transformative to us and encouraging to us, wrote a little note of encouragement to a swan within, and sent them on to encourage those young women who most oftentimes have been in foster care systems, many of them either going to be mothers or were teen mothers.
Okay.
So uh, I think that our response to what's happening in the world today is as diverse as we are. And we're
Okay.
doing some things as an organization. We also log tons of volunteer service hours to paint schools, to clean up beaches. We care about the environment. So
So
we're doing a lot.
that's you guys are doing a lot, and I will say that I also want to mention the fact that you all had your Kwanzaa celebration here, and that meant a lot
Yes.
to us. And I think we have a couple of pictures, a beautiful table with the kinara and all the beautiful pieces that really exemplify Kwanzaa. And what I thought was important about that is not that you only had the celebration, which supported our organization. Um, but you had some of our residents come and receive gifts and witness the celebration, and they were very appreciative of the gifts as well as just watching the process and learning more about Kwanzaa. So we appreciate you all being a part of our program in that way. And I want to ask before we transition to bring Kathy back, what do you hope, for the future? If we had to say, Coco Smith, what do you dream? We always talk about, we have hopes and dreams. What do you think your hope is, or what do you believe is your hope for the future for the parents and the young parents in our program?
My greatest aspiration is that they begin to believe and understand and take the power to make this world a better place, that they understand that they are well equipped, that they can do it. There is nothing that they lack. I love what Kathy said about her life and whether or not it was out of order. And I just thought it was just such a revelation to understand that you're not a mistake, and this is not a mistake for
Ooh.
you to walk through the experiences that you're experiencing. It's about paying attention
Hmm.
and connecting to that and offering those learnings back up. So that is my greatest hope for any person,
Yes.
especially for the young people coming from where you are from,
Yes.
from
Yes.
the center. They
Hmm.
are the next champions. They
Hmm.
are the next. They're the next generation who's going to take what we've done further, beyond our wildest dreams. So,
Well, you said it. Amen. I think we're having like a church session in here
church.
today. So speaking of church, let's bring Reverend Cat back into the conversation. Thank you, Coco. I'm excited. Now, you all can see why these are two of our honorees. Our Evening of Angels event is on October 25th. And, Evening of Angels, you hear what they've said, what they've had to say. We're honoring, Charles Dunn and Company. We're honoring Dale Pelch, who is two of members that have been dynamic on our board. We're honoring the Jack and Jill of America Incorporated, the Los Angeles chapter, and we're honoring Reverend Kathy Kapp. It's being hosted by Melvin Robert. Many of you have seen him on Spectrum News. I laugh each day. I don't know if you see him. He has a dance cam, and lately he's been dancing on there, and all these folks are watching and sharing. I think he's gone viral. Maybe we can get him to dance if we raise enough money on October 25th. That might be something special. But I really want to thank our sponsors, Charles Dunn, Payton and Regal, American Airlines, Equitrust, and Occidental Group Holding. And there are many more, but I just wanted to say, you two exemplify the people that need to be honored. Kathy, Reverend Kat, from your journey, your critical comment that Coco just echoed, it actually moved me. I was sitting here when you said about the fact that it's not a mistake, you're not a mistake, the children aren't a mistake, out of order, the divine order of how things worked in your life gave you the experience to not be judgmental, to want to help, to want to be able to reach out. So, tell us what it feels like for you, Kathy. I'll start with you, to have this honor at this point in your life, and tell us a little bit about your son.
It is remarkable. When I received the phone call that invited me to be honored at this event, I was blown away, because quite frankly, I had reached out saying, I just want to be a part of the Evening of Angels, because in the years that I worked there, I worked the event. And at this time in my career, in my life, I really feel it's important to be involved. And so to be honored is really, truly a privilege. And it causes me to reflect on all of the influences of my life and how much of my life was influenced by my time there and my journey since. And so much of it is because I spent so many years in what I call my secular ministry in working at St. Anne's. I can't even say how amazing it has been. The journey with raising my son was a challenge. Going to school, I graduated from college when he graduated from kindergarten, and that was tough. And so to now have him, he's a 30-year-old, and who wisely told me this year that he caught up with me in age. So that's he's a good guy. But to see him as a full-fledged adult who's engaged with his community, and to see what he's been doing, and I spent so many of my years hoping to prevent him from encountering challenge, and now I realize that the challenges that he did encounter have shaped the person he is in the same way that the challenges I encountered helped shape me. And so they are blessings. There's an anthem that my choir sang back when we could actually be in person, though we have a virtual choir that is amazing at my church. I invite you to go to our YouTube channel and watch. But sorry about that plug.
That's okay.
But there's a song. This is what if our struggles are blessings in disguise. And I think that it's about shaping, like being rooted in a paying attention. Coco mentioned paying attention, and then being rooted in gratitude, and surrounding yourself with people who can inspire you and to give you moments of gratitude is so important, especially in this time where we are divided politically and on every level, and there's so much injustice going on, and there's so much for us to be together on, and to surround ourselves with people who can inspire us to be better and to do better.
Yes. Inspiration. And Coco, I want you to move to, I think, the right a little bit. We want you centered because we want to see your beautiful face. And I think there, well, yep, you're going in that's it right there.
I'm in the right direction.
You're in the right direction. We have you perfectly, you're perfect right there. So Reverend Kathy, that is important. And I'll ask Coco similar question. there is so much polarization in so many ways, and we can get caught up in, all the different layers. But what do we do to inspire hope? What do we do to try to see? Because I was thinking about this earlier. You know, there's so much going on in the community around, you know, Breonna Taylor's death and so many things. And, my personal feeling of, wow, everyone said, say her name. We all said her name, but did people
Yeah.
hear us say her name? Even Oprah said her name and still it wasn't heard. But how do we bring about hope and unity when people at times feel like their voices aren't heard from the highest level on?
Yeah.
What do you think we can do? Because that's what
I
we're
mean, this
about
is
here at
about
St. Anne's.
yeah, this
Yes,
is MomVersations,
yes,
right? And
yes,
I'm in an organization of mothers,
yes.
powerful women, you know. And I have to tell you, well, there are a couple of things. One is, how do we guide our children through this? How do I explain to my daughter what it means, or talk to her about her feelings when she hears about the Breonna Taylor um, verdicts, or the when she hears about that? What do I tell my Black daughter about that? How do I talk to her about that in a sober-minded way, but also give her hope? And I think that that's something that we're all working through. But I can tell you that one of the first things, especially for moms within Jack and Jill, is that we have to kind of deal with it within ourselves first. We've got to be okay, you know. Um, and I go back to, we got to put our hands to the wheel from wherever you are, whatever your angle of interest is. Then that is where you start picking at it. We have to say her name, but we have to speak up. So, teaching my daughters that it's okay to speak up when something doesn't look right, or you are unsettled by something. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to be different. Uh, and also to share with them, to try to put things in perspective, in historical perspective, to understand that in spite of the challenges that seem really burdensome even now, that when we look at our history, when we talk to our elders, we know that there have been victories, and we know that there has been movement. We know that there's still more work to do. Um, and that they're equipped to do it, and that they have a role. Like, you are a gift, you have a gift to give, so your work is figuring that out. Like, what is it
Yes,
that you are here to
yes,
contribute to in this? So I think, um you can't do anything for anyone else, and
yes.
if you're not well. And I think, especially if we to tie in with St. Anne's and
Mm-hmm.
being
Mm-hmm.
a single mom and not
Yeah.
having time for yourself or what have you. Kathy
Yes.
said she had a call on her life when she was a teen mother,
Yes.
right? So, I think that the importance of being a mother to children in these time periods is, number one, take care of yourself. Make sure your stuff is
Make sure
straight.
you have your mask on first
Make sure you
before.
have
Yes,
enough
we need to
for.
have our, yeah, we need to be filled.
Yeah.
And so that's very powerful. And Reverend Cap, I know in terms of, from the faith community, hope and faith is what people are holding on to. And I think about the fact that people are talking about division and not being able to get along. But I bet you when you were here, Reverend Cap, there was a diverse group of people who had to live together in housing, get to know each other, actually have to learn to love each other and lean on one another. And I think about that all the time in young people who are living in, housing within programs like ours, that you have to learn about each other's culture. And that's one of the things that, just so you know, may have been different then, I'm not sure. We work on that regularly here. We want people to be exposed and know about the wonderful aspects about each other's culture and learn how to live together in unity and understanding inequity and equity and equality and the differences. But tell us a little bit about, as we get ready to come to a close shortly, what your experience was with that and how that helps you now.
When I lived at St. Anne's, it was a maternity home only. And so it was 96 women, ages 12 to 21. And we came from all over with a variety of circumstances. And I'm an only child. So moving from a home where I was the only child into a home where there were 95 other children, for sake of that piece of the story, it was a challenge. But it was also such a gift, because in listening to stories, even when the stories vary, we grow in our understanding of ourselves and we grow in our understanding of one another. And we, as a Christian, I am called to the greatest commandment, to love God with my whole self and love all of my neighbors as I love myself. And I have to both, as Coco was talking about, work on loving myself first, but listening to stories. If we don't listen to stories and have conversations, and that's we're having a lot of conversations about a variety of issues that tend to divide, so that we can learn more about one another and experience the joy that comes from growing together in unity, which is not uniformity. We do not all have to hold the same values or beliefs or believe in the same God or any God. I mean, there's so many differences that we can hold individually, but that we must do that. We must do the work of growing ourselves by engaging with one another. And that's how, and it can't be done in a way that isn't authentic and genuine. And so I think fostering those kinds of relationships is the job of the church and is the job of any organization that is seeking to make the world a better place.
Thank you. We have a question. Sometimes we don't have a chance to have questions, but we have a lot of people tuning in and watching, a lot of your colleagues and friends and people all over the country. And I think we have someone from the East Coast is asking, how do we renew our children's hope when we are in despair? And I know some of that has been answered, but it's not quite there, because that is a good question. We're working every day at St. Anne's as an essential organization, working with mental health programs, family-based services, housing, our early childhood education. We have teachers coming back on campus this week to start working with our Head Start programs, and some of the parents and the children. So how do we do that? How do we renew our children's hope when we're in despair? And some of us are in despair.
Yeah, I think we have to create a space for each other with our children to feel that despair.
Acknowledge that pain.
We have to acknowledge it. I really think that we have to acknowledge it and let it breathe. And I think that, I'm a Christian too. And I think that the word tells us that in our weakness, that he is made strong. So in that expression of allowing that, like, this hurts, like this really sucks, that there's a space there for our creator, our higher power, to come back and inspire and guide us and direct us towards the light of hope in our actions. Because I think that there are actions that go with it. But we got to acknowledge, you got to acknowledge that feeling.
Yes. That's powerful. And we have to. It's like when we try to gloss over and act like everything's okay. And what's challenging is, many people are in a work setting, and you sometimes you can't bare your soul. It's nice, Reverend Kathy, that you can, in your kind of pastoral mode, you're able to have a certain level of, of that. But I know many people who are working in, environments that you can't let that down. You can't have that moment to breathe. So you have to do what Coco said, is finding those moments. And giving young people, whether it's the children in Jack and Jill, whether it's the children in your church, or whether it's the children in your home that you're living with, mommy's hurting right now, daddy may be hurting right now. Having that honest moment to say, yes, we hold it all together, and we're going to have you fed and clothed and all these other things, but at some point there's a moment within each setting that we have to let people know, I need a minute. I need a
Yeah.
minute to process. I'm feeling something right now. And they ought to be able to have a connection to share. And that's why I think sometimes there can be that difficulty in settings, because if you say, well, how come you don't understand or see or feel my pain in that dialogue? But I think we can move from there,
Yeah.
and start to have those honest dialogues. So
And
yeah,
one more thing, and I think our children and even we have that question. Well, why don't we have workplaces that allow for the human experience? For you to, why don't we have that? And I think that
yes,
I'm asking that question,
mm,
but our children will be asking those questions too. And I think that as they ask those questions,
yes,
the answers will come. But we
yes,
have to question that.
yes,
Why is it that this man has to live on the street and doesn't have a place to live and is half
yes,
out of his mind? Why? I mean, as a mom, I've had to, grapple with those questions
yes,
that little ones ask because they
yes,
do.
they do.
So we got to ask those questions
Hmm.
and challenge what is happening in this
Yes,
world.
yes. Well, I know we're almost out of time, Kathy. I want to give you the word. Seems like you were going to say something as we get ready to close out. I want to just, before that, just to thank you both for being here. I'm excited about October 25th. This is going to be new for us, doing a virtual gala. I mean, this is a virtual world right now. We want to maintain everyone's safety. We want to make sure that people are going to join us and kind of learn more about the work that we're doing. In terms of your question about the workplace, I know as a CEO of St. Anne's, it's important for me to have people have that opportunity. We've had all team, all staff meetings where, people cry, people have that moment. We reflect, we talk about the journey, because we want to value and respect and model that. If we can't respect each other, how are we going to respect the people that we serve? And I use that word intentionally, the people that we serve, and that we seek to empower and give them opportunities. So I look forward to the opportunity. There are going to be some surprises on the 25th, 5 p.m. Join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Kathy, I know you wanted to say something. I'll give you the last word in these last 2 minutes.
I was just going to say that on top of needing that space to name our pains, that we need to shatter the image that we are supposed to show up with, like to leave our baggage at the door. I mean,
Mm,
certainly we don't want to carry in baggage in a way that adds to someone else's burden or to their stress. But if we are real, and the value of being in community, whatever that is, whether it's a workplace, whether
mhm.
it's St. Anne's, whether it's a church, whether it's Jack and Jill, whether it's in the healthcare world, that we have to be a community, because the beauty is that when one is feeling more despair,
Mm,
there's likely to be someone who is on the upswing from that despair who can even help
reach back.
encourage.
Mm,
And we have to do that together and
mm,
not shame people for feeling what life is bringing, especially
yes.
in this time. So
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, for those who are watching, um, reach out to someone, check in on that person, even if they seem like they're doing well. There's so much happening right now that it behooves us all to take a moment to just make sure your fellow coworker, colleague, friend, and talk to the children. We're talking about MomVersations here today. The young people, sometimes we think they're children and they're not absorbing. They're absorbing. They have
they are.
questions. They need to have an opportunity to process without that judgment, because sometimes they ask questions and we jump into solution mode and we're the parents, but allow them to have those moments where they can say, I don't understand this, or I don't get this, or why is this person being mean, or why is this person not being nice, and what's happening. Let them ask the questions and just listen and respond. So thank you to you two. We look forward to seeing you on October 25th at 5 p.m. And we have, your awards will be provided to you, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you too. Enjoy the
Thank
rest of
Thank
your
you.
you.
day.
Thank you. It's been
Thank
wonderful.
you.
You
Thank you
as
so much.
well.
So, um, that was, that was it for this show. I just want to thank all our sponsors. I appreciate everyone that's listed here for helping us. It's not too late if you want to sponsor our event on October 25th. We look forward to everyone joining us virtually. If you need the link or you have a question, we can share that with you. Congratulations once again to our honorees. I just want you all to know that St. Anne's is here. We're working on a daily basis. We have an amazing staff, an amazing board. We have an amazing group of individuals who make it work every day. And it's not easy work, but it's work that we all love. We love the children, the families, everyone that we provide support for, and they are a joy. And they have creative solutions and ideas. And our job is just to empower them and to help them be the best that they can be. So please support us supporting families on October 25th, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you to all our staff for always making this happen, and our development team. Thank you so much. Be blessed. Have a great day. Thank you to everyone involved, our board and our sponsors.